My name is Bond.
Oh, you're Mr. Bond. I believe I'm having you in half an hour.
Oh, splendid. Your room or mine?
Mine.
You know, there is a more beneficial therapy for a man's lower back.
Oh, really? What might that be?
Algernon.
Not quite perfected yet.
You could write a very binding contract with us.
Good to see you, Mr. Bond. Things have been awfully dull round here. I hope we're going to have some gratuitous sex and violence.
I certainly hope so, too.
Good evening. James Bond is back. What am I talking about? James Bond has never been away. Like the Royal Mint, he's always with us, coining money. What I mean, of course, is that Sean Connery is back as tough, laconic, randy old 007, dealing with international criminals and amorous women with equal aplomb. And I'll be talking to him later on. Mr. Connery first created the screen Bond in Dr. No in 1962, when he was 32. He last played the part in Diamonds Are Forever in 1971, and now, 12 years later, here he is once more in Never Say Never Again. A little thicker as to the waistline, a little more grizzled as to the toupee, but otherwise, as you can see for yourselves in this scene, pretty much unchanged. Ah, what a man. Now, before we take a closer look at Never Say Never Again, let's consider the tortuous path that took Sean Connery to the role of James Bond in the first place. He was born in 1930 in a tenement in Edinburgh, served briefly in the Navy, then drifted into a variety of odd jobs as a coalman, a lifeguard and a dance hall bouncer. He was even runner-up in a Mr. Universe competition. It can't have been much of a Mr. Universe competition because Arnold Schwarzenegger he ain't. But his muscles got him a job as a chorus boy in South Pacific, and after clumping about the stage for a bit, observing tunefully that there is nothing like a dame, he determined to become an actor. Television brought him to the public attention in 1957 when he starred in Requiem for a Heavyweight, and about the same time he was appearing in a number of indifferent British films that did little for him except provide invaluable experience. In 1961, for instance, he played a dim-witted airman opposite Alfie Lynch in On the Fiddle.
Hey, Peddler, what day is it?
Sunday.
Sunday. Hey, Peddler, do you think if next Wednesday I tell that butcher that there's a traffic jam at the registry office, you know, too many people want to get spliced at once, then perhaps I can keep installing, till the postings come in.
You don't have to worry no more, it's all fixed. Fixed? The postings. We've just got to see the MO this morning, and we'll be out of here by tonight. I've already fixed the chips, look.
Where are we supposed to be going?
Nice and far away. It come to me last night. So I went to the corporal down at SHQ and volunteered.
You volunteered for what?
The boat!
The boat? Why, you bloody homicidal maniac! You signed that petition, death warrants, that's what you've done.
But you said you wanted to get away.
Well, yeah, but not that way. There hasn't been a volunteer in this outfit since they went up after Zeppelins. They'll have our pictures in all the papers. They'll drive us up the bleeding gangplank with a band. Oh, after blokes posted overseas don't get no further than jib. After that, they splash around in a bad bloody biscuit, and I can't swim. Can you swim?
No. But the issue lifebelts.
Well, all this is a pretty long way from the suave, sybaritic world of James Bond and the Secret Service. But the lad was getting there. Again in 1961, he provided a salutary reminder that he could act a bit when he appeared on TV with Claire Bloom in Anna Karenina. Connery, whose babyhood cot had been the bottom drawer of his mother's wardrobe, played the aristocratic Count Vronsky with much style and subtlety.
You are mad, I think.
I agree.
You know that Kitty is ill.
Yes.
Doesn't seem to touch you. I can scarcely forgive myself.
On the contrary, I'm heartbroken. But there's nothing I can do about it.
You can. Go back to her. We can be friends.
I love you.
Oh, yes, you love me. One forgets a dream.
It wasn't a dream. I love you.
No.
Are you afraid?
I want to keep my peace of mind, Vronsky.
And mine? What about me? I've told you you've done for me.
Please go.
All right. You go your way, I shall go mine. But we'll be together all the same.
You are me. I am you. We are one.
Goodbye, Count Vronsky.
The following year, 1962, along with Michael Medwin and Norman Rossington, he had a bit part in The Longest Day, Daryl Zanuck's film about the D-Day invasion. And as a matter of fact, that's when I first met him. I was working for a newspaper at the time, and I'd been invited along to write about the filming. "You don't mind travelling with actors, do you?" asked the film company. "No," I said, because I'm no snob. So they booked me on the same train from Paris to La Rochelle. It was absolutely packed. Medwin and Rossington, who are pretty fly, grabbed a seat each, but Connery and I spent the entire journey sitting on the floor of a third-class compartment. And on the way, just to make conversation, I said, "What are you doing next, Sean?" He said, "Oh, I'm playing James Bond." And then rather defensively he added, "Well, it's a job." The rest, as they say, is history. I've travelled third class many times since then, but I doubt if he has. He probably bought the train. Anyway, he made 6 Bond films, the others being From Russia with Love, Goldfinger, Thunderball, You Only Live Twice, and Diamonds Are Forever. But after the latter, he decided he'd had enough of Bond, wisely, no doubt. After all, you can't really build a whole career on one part, not if you want to be considered a proper actor, which Mr. Connery certainly does. And both during and after Bond, he's proved his versatility in such films as Sidney Lumet's The Hill, Alfred Hitchcock's Marnie, John Huston's The Man Who Would Be King, the original and intelligent Robin and Marion, and Fred Zinnemann's 5 Days, One Summer. Now, Mr. Connery's comeback to 007 was much hedged about by argument and controversy. The Bond series, produced by Cubby Broccoli and starring the excellent and amiable Roger Moore, have been carrying on as successfully as ever. Indeed, this summer they brought out Octopussy, which I thought was great fun. Consequently, Cubby Broccoli was none too chuffed to learn that his former star, Sean Connery, was turning up in a rival Bond production. He was probably even less chuffed when a poll conducted by Penthouse magazine claimed that 64% of men and 52% of women preferred Connery to Moore in the role. Nevertheless, production of Never Say Never Again went ahead, largely because it's actually a remake of Thunderball, the film rights of which belong for all manner of complicated reasons, not to Mr. Broccoli, but to another producer. Right, so that roughly is the background, and now before I get on to the chat with Sean Connery, what of the film itself? Well, it's the good old familiar story. The dreaded Spectre, represented by Max von Sydow, and more particularly by that marvellous German actor Klaus Maria Brandauer, has stolen 2 cruise missiles from England, and that ought to please the Greenham common ladies, and is holding the world to ransom. Bond naturally comes to the rescue, first having to overcome all the wiles of the exotic and erotic Barbara Carrera, a really tasty villainess, before, aided and abetted by his adoring helpmeet Kim Basinger, he saves us all in the nick of time. Well, what else did you expect? There are 1 or 2 innovations. For example, Felix Leiter, Bond's ubiquitous mucker from the CIA, is now played by a black actor, Bernie Casey, and should perhaps be renamed Felix Darker. But mostly it's all down to Sean Connery, and it's as if he'd never been away. A triumphant return, in fact, in a thoroughly enjoyable romp of a thriller. Well, I talked to him earlier this evening, but first, let's see another scene from the film.
how reckless of me. I made you all wet.
Yes, but my martini's still dry. My name's James.
Hello, James. I'm Fatima Blush.
You ski very well.
I do many things very well.
Oh, I'm sure you do.
What brings you to Nassau, James?
I'm fishing.
For what?
Anything I can get.
I know the best waters. I'd be very happy to show them to you.
Now, why would you want to do that?
I'd like you to find what you're looking for.
I'm all yours.
Sean, can we begin by backtracking a bit and go over the old ground? Why did you stop playing Bond?
Oh, backtracking. It's a long way back. Well, I stopped mainly because the films escalated, got longer and longer, became more and more difficult to legislate in time. They got more and more hardware, and the producers were frightfully greedy.
All that being so, what made you come back again?
Well, it's another sort of convoluted story. I was in Almeria finishing The Wind and the Lion, and Kevin McClory said, came to see me. Kevin was the one who'd won the lawsuit against Fleming originally to have the rights to do Thunderball. And he said that after 10 years, the rights reverted back to him, and he knew I wasn't interested in playing the part, but would I consider writing a screenplay with Len Dayton? And that appealed to me, so I said, sure. I worked with Len over a period of, I don't know, 4 months, 6 months nearly. And the script was coming rather well. And I was discussing it with my wife, and she said, well, if it's going so well, why don't you play the part? And coming from her, I gave it more thought than I normally would have done, I suppose. And it seemed quite a good idea after all these years. This is, I think, maybe 3 years ago. I'm no good at memory in times of the past, but about then. And the moment I said, yeah, okay, I'll do it, there was a terrific furore with lawyers and what have you, because obviously there's a great deal of money involved. And that always attracts a lawyer.
Well, in fact, you had a tremendous amount to do with the overall production, probably more than certainly with any other Bond film, I imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, you had a hand in the casting, the writing?
Well, you see, my feeling was that the Bond films had initially, say in Dr. No from Russia with Love, one had done the character as far as the actor was concerned. And then it was a case then of the stories becoming, as I said earlier, progressively more involved with hardware and longer and less the essence of what Fleming had originally written. And I thought that From Russia with Love contained the best of Fleming, with the marvelous locations and interesting ambience and good stories and interesting characters, and like a detective story with espionage and exotic settings and nice birds and what have you. And I'd felt that they also had not really been cast as heavily as they could have been. So that was what I was more interested in and pushed for when we came back to do the film. I mean, for example, to get somebody like Klaus Brandauer, who, in my opinion, is probably one of the best 10 actors around, to play Largo was one of my first choices. We got him. And it was the same across the board. I wanted Eddie Fox for M, and I wanted Alec McCowan for Q, you know, and then Von Sydow for Blofeld. And when you've got these sort of actors, and then the actresses, I had met Barbara Carrera in Los Angeles, discussed at length with her and Kirshner, what the idea of attractive and dance and, you know, what the films, the essence of what the films were about before was really what one was after. And then Kim Basinger. Once when I had Barbara, you wanted somebody quite different, and like Kim, who is in fact, I think, a rather marvelous and interesting actress, and will do many more interesting things. She just went on from there to Reynolds and Robert Redford. Yeah. And she's a dancer and a singer and a diver and swimmer, plus an actress. So the combination...
Can't be bad.
Well, yeah.
Oh, that feels so good.
Certainly does.
Excuse me?
It certainly does need it. You have slight lesions in the upper vertebrae.
Oh. Could you go a little lower, please?
Lower?
Yes, please. Yes. Oh, right there. Oh, it feels so good.
Bonjour.
Bonjour, monsieur. Oh, I'm sorry, mademoiselle. We are so very busy today.
Where'd the monsieur go?
Who?
The man, the monsieur.
The man at parcel. He does not work here.
How did you come up with this new title? Is it true that it comes about because you once said about Bond, never again?
No.
Pity.
There's a bit of that in it, because what happened was they had to have a title. The title before that McClory had given us with Len Dayton was Warhead, which is not very, stimulating or whatever. So the Warners and everybody came up with reams and reams of titles which you cannot believe. It's always interesting. It's happened on so many movies, especially the ones I've been involved in. And it was my wife that came up with it. She came up with Never Say Never Again. And then after hearing it a couple of times, then she's saying, and you did say you'd never do it again, and here you're doing it, and what have you. And there is no question that it worked, and it worked so well in the French, jamais plus jamais, and in Italy it's mai dire mai,
Oh, well, these are important considerations, aren't they? You get the title right everywhere.
Well, also it writes a song, it makes for the music, and then that's something else that takes it on. Incidentally, the producer promised my wife a sable coat for the title, and she's never received it, so I'll have to take legal proceedings, I think.
Indeed, yes. I hope he's watching and listening to this.
Yes.
Now, did you have any trepidation about coming back? I love the way you come back as somebody who's vaguely come out of retirement somehow. I mean, well, you're not pretending to be the young James Bond that we all know and love from 10 years ago.
No, we talked about many different ways to go. And we did entertain the idea that it would be kind of funny of, James Bond and the girls in bed, and he's in the bathroom making his ginseng tea or whatever it is, and doing his press-ups and, coming into the room. But then it became a can of peas that you couldn't close, because it meant you had to deal with it with everybody. And then with them, and it diminished the protagonist, Largo, Brandauer. Then the character diminishes the relationship between these two and what have you. So it was, by the time you'd finished, you'd say, well, wait a minute, it would have been easier to make a Woody Allen movie. So that wasn't good. So, and in fact, in the original novel, all the health farm stuff and everything was in it. And we also looked at it one time, the possibility of he was wearing a beard, or a mustache, or hairpiece, no hairpiece. We did one, my own hair color, and it looked, looked like Jimmy Stewart or something.
You have the reputation, Sean, of being about the least vain of actors. I mean, for instance, you're not wearing the rug now. Are you planning to extend that into playing without the rug, or is it just rug when you need it, rug when you don't?
Yeah, because, you see, it's like, I was asked a question, I had to think about it the other day. Why do you wear a wig? Why are you not wearing a wig now? Or something. Well, first of all, it's a personal choice. I don't like wearing a hairpiece. I don't like sticking a false beard on. I would rather grow a beard. Unfortunately, I can't grow hair, so I'm stuck with that. But equally so, like The Wind and the Lion, Robin and Marion, The Man Who Would Be King, I chose not to wear a hairpiece. 5 Days, One Summer, I didn't wear a hairpiece because I dyed my hair white for The Man Who Would Be King, for 5 Days, One Summer. But that was because it seemed to work for the character in the film. And then on other parts, like Murder on the Orient Express, one got a better look for what one was after with a hairpiece.
And the same applies with Bond, of course.
Well, exactly. And, you know, we tried the other ways, and it just looked wrong.
What is it you're after?
In part, it's about your brother.
What about my brother?
Did you know that your brother was working for Largo?
That's impossible. Jack is in the U.S. Air Force.
That's precisely why Largo used him. Your brother's dead. Keep dancing.
Were you inhibited in any way by the fact that when you were making Never Say Never Again, Roger Moore was making Octopussy?
No, I made it quite clear at the outset that I was not in any way going to get involved in any silly race or any hype in terms of rivalry or whatever. As you know, as you well know, I've known Roger 20 years or so. In fact, we started around the same time, and I bumped into Roger in St. James's, and we had, you know, he said, "What are you doing? Where are you going?" I said, "Well, I'm going off to the Bahamas." He said, "Well," he said, "I'm going off to India," and, you know, this kind of chat. And I did say to him, you know, they're going to try and play a sort of hype business, but you shouldn't really pay any attention to it. And we didn't. In fact, I haven't seen Roger this time, but we saw a lot of each other in London because we were both filming at the same time.
Yeah.
And we had a couple of, in fact, one of the best parties in London at the same time when all the boys were in town. Michael Caine came in, and
two
Albert
James
Finney.
Bonds.
Yeah, we never talked very much about the film.
What do you think is the difference between your playing of Bond and Roger Moore's playing? I'm not asking you to compare whether you think his is better or yours is better, but what's the fundamental
I don't think
difference?
it gets down to that. I think it's just a different appetite, that's all. For example, I think that the fundamental difference is that I played Bond, and in this one as well, with the reality, credibility, and hopefully still encompassing stunts and effects and what have you, and out of it some indigenous humour. And anything that happens is possible. And I feel that Roger, which I think he may have inherited in part from after Diamonds Are Forever, where they were already getting into that area of too much hardware, that was more important, and his is a sort of parody of the character, as it were, in that situation, so that you will go for the laugh or the humour at whatever the cost of the credibility or the reality. I think that's just basically the difference. And I think he took another direction with it that way and acquired an entirely different audience.
Yes, you both. I think you've both got separate followings.
Yeah.
You'll no doubt be delighted to know that in a recent poll, I think it was 62% of men and 56% of women preferred you as James Bond.
Well, you can't fight intelligence.
Indeed, you can't. Sean, I'm told that when the film was over, the producers wanted to shorten it a bit by cutting out some of Carl Maria Brandauer, and you refused to let them do that. Is that so?
Yeah, I had to come back and get in the middle of it all, because there was all sorts of ructions between the director and I didn't know before I started the picture that the producer had been the director's lawyer, and they had a running battle too about a contract which had never been signed until a few weeks ago or something, and which was, you know, just the kind of Hollywood mess that I abhor, and I hate that kind of nonsense, and whether it be actors or executives, and a lot of the actual kind of Bondian elements that we had done were already in the picture, were out. So when got in the middle, it was going to be Kirshner was going to do one part, and Schwartzman was going to do another, and then Warner's were going to mediate, and we'd have still been cutting it, you know. And also Brandauer was going to be the sufferer, because we had too much. I mean,
the Brando was very good, wasn't he?
He's marvellous. Yeah. I mean, it's a real performance. Yeah. You know, he's crazy.
Thank you, gentlemen. The eternal battle for the domination of the world begins.
We play for dollars.
Random target selection, Spain. Value $9,000. Play. Who wins $9,000?
Gave me a shock.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. Unlike armchair generals, we will share the pain of our soldiers in form of electric shocks. One last point. If you let go the controls, you forfeit the game. As you were unaware of this, we will begin again.
Reset. Thank you. Random target selection, Japan. Value $16,000. Play. Who wins $16,000?
A lucky move on my part. Perhaps I didn't explain. As the stakes increase, so does the level of pain. Rather like life. We continue?
Of course.
In the end, was it an enjoyable experience for you, recreating Bond?
It should have been a great deal more pleasure than it was. What I'm thrilled about is the huge success it's had, you know, where it's opened and is still running, you know. That's very reassuring and rewarding, both in one's own sense of work and financially. But it's unfortunate that yet again one has had to carry some incompetent.
Is there the possibility of another Sean Connery Bond, or is this really never again time?
Well, I tell you, I've been involved in this for 2 years. And I don't think I'll do another Bond. I mean, I'm really very tired. It's the first time, I think, in I don't know how many years, where I don't have any kind of game plan about a film or a couple of projects. I did a film for a young guy, Stephen Weeks, the Green Knight. It's now called The Sword of the Valiant, and that's the only other thing that's still to come out. But I haven't fixed, I've turned everything down and gone back more to reading again, which I'm finding...
You're not hinting that you're going to give up this acting game completely, are you?
No, I don't think I will. I'd like to find something to direct. That would probably get me back and excited again. I'm sure it's just a phase and it comes with age, I suppose. But I really think that they should make a 35-year-old young, kind of good actor, different, like some like this, what's his name, Mel Gibson, that sort of actor who can do that. That's what they want to find, I think.
A new James Bond, a younger James Bond.
Yeah, definitely. And Roger and I will play M and show him the ropes and all that nonsense.
Sean, that will be the day. Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Thank you.